Okay, we good? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sean and Sack Show. We're rolling. I pushed record. You're welcome. I have fancy things that I know how to do. This guy, I'm going to read you this message. Guys, we're on one right now. Well, I'm on one right now. And this is going to be a really great episode. Somebody just sent me a message, said I should do a show and call it Sean Whalen, Why He's Better Than You.
Jesus.
I'm kind of on one on social media today because I just had a post removed. And it's really funny that you can get spam and porn on every fucking post that I put up within literally 2 seconds of everything I post.
Explain what that means, but yeah.
What
I mean by you can get it.
Get what?
You have your bots. You're being
No,
blasted with bots.
if I posted something on Instagram right now, within literally 2 seconds, it's almost instantaneous. There'll be 7, 8, 9, 10 porn accounts. Hey, come see my titties. Hey, want to take me to the islands? Hey, do you think I should get my ass done? And they're all fake bot accounts.
Yeah.
And there's like half a dozen to a dozen of those, and then there's a dozen or 2 dozen. We're all doing a show, bro. Or 2 dozen fucking crypto things.
It's
but
crazy
I can't
too,
say.
Then the likes on those bots. Comments go like
50, well,
like,
they're not. Yeah, they're all fake.
I get it, but it's an interesting system that they've.
I'm just on one because like I'm really fired up. We moved into our new warehouse. Well, we just got our new warehouse, and I just did a post where I was like, look, nobody's stopping me. You ain't gonna stop me. Nobody's gonna fucking stop me. And if you get in my way, I'm gonna run you over. And it was removed for inciting violence because they said I was gonna run you over. Now, Black Lives Matter and all these other fuck faces, they can have videos like hitting an old man with a baseball bat in the head, and it's considered racial equality. You get to smash a dude in the head with a fucking baseball bat or punch an old lady because you're mad, and that's fine. But I talk about how I'm gonna fucking win and spike the ball on your head, and that's removed for inciting violence. So I'm kind of on one right now.
Speaking of violence, we're gonna
talk dirty to me, baby. Give it to me.
I adore you. You're so weird in all
adorable.
the best ways. Yeah, we had a really good conversation last night on our back deck on date night about the war on masculinity, and this is a topic that we both got fired up about.
Yes.
Today specifically, this is a common thing, and I think that the narrative we're being fed is that masculine is toxic, and that's absolutely incorrect. What's toxic right now is toxic masculine, which I'm sorry, but a lot of us women have been a big contributor to that. Our friend Taryn literally just posted about this. She was like, the biggest detriment to her marriage was she was stuck in her own toxic masculine cycles. Right. And I can completely...
She wanted the power. She was trying to fight for the power.
Well, it's not even fight. You have to understand. If you take it, I'm going to take it all the way back to like the roots of this, because I am a byproduct of this very thing. Is I, in my life, right now in society, there's so many women that are just like me. I was put in a position where I had to protect myself. I had to provide for myself. I had to do all of these masculine things because there was no masculine in my life to do those things for me. This is super, super common. And why? Because most men, there's this epidemic where most men are not encouraged to be masculine, which then forces women to have to become masculine. This all happened without me even consciously realizing it. This took years of deconditioning, I guess is the right word for it, is removing this conditioning I have of like, oh my God, no wonder I can't have a successful relationship. I only know how to be in my masculine. But then I've looked at like men, and it's really, really, really sad because they're being taught to be ashamed, to be powerful, to be assertive, to be protective, to be violent. If you think about it, like, if a man doesn't know how to be violent, how is he going to protect his family?
Preach, girl.
Truthfully, like, if somebody breaks into our house and I have some soft guy right here that's sedated and fat and doesn't take care of himself, he's not in living his life, he's not being in power, what what's going to happen?
You're going to be dead.
I'm going to be dead, or I'm going to have to become that. And that's really like, I see that a lot. And that's a struggle with a lot of women dating right now too, is like they can't figure out how to find a masculine man. And there's like two edges to that. It's like, one, it's because they're so masculine, but also like, where are the fucking masculine men right now? It's an endangered species almost.
Was that a question?
That's rhetorical. Oh. I'm not looking for them, but I'm rooting for them.
Okay, well, you're not looking for them because you already found the one. Let's break this down for a second, because this was we sat for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
But this is a very needed conversation, and there will be lots of little clips that we will take out of this and use on social media. It will probably be banned and taken off because nobody wants to hear this, but it's truth. This isn't new. No. A lot of people think that this is new. What's new is social media. What's new is the amount of information that we have. What's new is the rapid connection to information that we have. The truth of the matter is, most people know whether or not they're a boy or a girl. Most human beings, I bet you 99% of human beings that have a dick know that they're a man, a male, okay? Most people that have a vagina know that they're a female. Like, what we're being fed right now is that there's this great land of confusion, and there's this great war on the genders and who's doing what and what. It's all fucking bullshit. It's the narrative that's being spit by a bunch of like just idiots, right? It's the garbage that's being spewed by the people that spew garbage for a living, right? And it's a hot topic and everybody's buying into it. Yeah. But here's the reality. You go back 50 years, the movement of feminization, the movement of this demasculation. What is that even the word? Is that the word?
We're just making. I think we're just.
I don't even give a fuck. You know what I'm talking about. If you don't, then fuck off. The reality is, you go back 50 years, right? You look at our education system. You look at our religion. You look at Western civilization. When we were little kids, we have been programmed, and I'm 43 years old, so it was long before me. Mm-hmm. We have been programmed since we were little children. Okay, sit down. Quiet down. Do as you're told. Don't speak up. Don't say anything that's going to offend anybody. Like our innate DNA, our primal conditioning, not like what's inside of us, not like our ancestors, but like what's been literally programmed in our brains, in our souls, since we were little teeny children, is to be submissive. Mm-hmm. Is to do as we're told, to not rustle anybody's feathers, to not say anything that's going to piss anybody off, to not say anything that's going to be a hot topic. Don't say that, or else it's going to piss off Uncle Larry and Aunt Sally at Thanksgiving. They won't come, and then it'll cause a problem with Uncle Joe, and then Uncle Joe will be pissed at Aunt Lauren, and it's just this fucking vicious cycle. So what do we talk about at Thanksgiving? Nothing. We don't talk about sex, money, politics, religion, divorce, depression, suicide, any of the real things that are happening in life. Mm-hmm. And here we are now in this day and age when we have rapid access to data. We have data being literally shoved in our face all day, every day through these plastic devices that we spend all of our time on. We bank on them. We communicate on them. We plan kids' soccer practice on them. We literally order our food on them. We buy shit. We buy our toilet paper on them, right? We're on our phones literally operating our entire fucking life, and meanwhile we're being spoon-fed, shoved in our face, this idea that real men are bad.
Yeah.
And we have a radical conversation happening, but this isn't new. Like our programming and the conditioning on a secular level.
Our parents.
Like again, I want to go. I read Sex at Dawn, and it's a great book. If you haven't read it, you guys should read it. It talks a lot about like male and female and the connection and the actual physical connection between human beings and dominance of males and so on and so forth. But like I want to really talk about this in depth for people to understand this, because we can talk about men and women and radical feminization, the whole thing. I'm not talking about the purple hair fucking chick who weighs 400 pounds who hasn't been fucked in 30 years anyways because she doesn't want to get fucked because she's just a fucking bitch. She's just an angry bitch who waves the flag of screw men and men are bad and evil because she had daddy issues. I'm not talking about that. Like I'm talking about the fact that for the last 50 years in this country, there has been a movement of softening, of getting people to be submissive And I'm not talking about good submissive. I'm not talking about, submissive to emotions and feelings. I'm talking about literal submissiveness to a culture, to a society, to a God, to a religion, to a government. And the truth of the matter is we're now here in 2022. 2022? I don't even know what day it is, what year it is, whatever. We're now in 2022 when we have 300 and something million people who have spent the last 50 years in this same conversation. The baby boomers, the Gen Xers, the millennials, we're all living in this exact same pool of conversation that masculinity, the pure violent nature that is man, is bad and it's wrong. Mm-hmm. The really interesting thing is this. You go back 2 generations, just 2. Yeah. I'm not talking about 2,000 years. I'm not talking about Jesus's time. I'm not talking about medieval, our great-grandparents. The fact of the matter is that if you didn't go out and fucking hunt, you starved. You didn't eat. Mm-hmm. If you did not go out and fucking hunt, physically hunt, you starved. This isn't something that's like some far-fetched thing that we're hunting is this weird, whatever. Yeah. I'm talking about 2 generations back. And so you step back from this conversation, right? And this is the real interesting thing about what we talked about last night and what's really going on with this masculinity, this war on masculinity, is having an independent man, a man who can produce, provide, and protect. This is something I came up with in the early days of Lions Not Sheep, with the Lions Not Sheep experience. Is like, as men, it is our job, innate DNA. Mm-hmm. You read any book of history, you read any book of culture, you read any book of civilization, you read anything. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of part of the technology weirdness, is like, we live in a day and age where if you need security, you call 911. If you need food, you call Uber Eats. Yeah. If you need transportation, you call Uber. If you need shelter, you just go to the government and they'll give you a home. Soft. You have no need to hunt. You have no need to provide. You have no need to protect. And so you take an entire...
Until you need it. That's the crazy
That's my point, though. But think about it. Yeah. What is... Somebody broke into your home. Mm-hmm. What is everyone's go-to? Call 911. Someone else will come solve this problem.
Someone will save me.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
Someone will
What's open at 2 a.m? Who can give me food right now? Uh-huh. Think this through for 2 seconds. There is no more need for a man to be a man. There's no more need for a man to be a man. Mm-hmm. Jack Donovan talks about this in The Way of the Barbarian and all of his books. Phenomenal books, by the way. Anybody listening to this, big shout out to Jack. He is a brilliant writer, very, very, very smart guy. I would highly suggest all of you go read all of his books. He talks about this. There really is no more need for a man to be a man. Now you enter in the cultural phenomenon of demasculating men, and then you take away the need for a man to be a man. And so what are all of these boys doing? They don't need to be men. They don't need to show up. Mm-hmm. And the real interesting thing is then you add on what you just talked about, the anger and the frustration of women firing at men, like demasculating men, and then expecting somehow them to show up. Because the truth is, masculinity is not gone. It's not dead. We're out here. Straight up. Like the dudes that I roll around with
the narrative
are men.
Is that
they are fucking
and it's
men,
bad.
Right? Mm-hmm. There are far more men in this country and on this planet than there are soy boys. And the truth of the matter is, you go outside of America, like in Russia and shit like that, and South America, they're fucking men. They're out there still hunting. They're out there still fucking slitting throats. You break into somebody's house, they don't call 911. There is no fucking 911. They'll slit your throat. It's how it works, right? But again, most people have never been out of their fucking mom's basement, let alone across the country or the world. But what's really fascinating to me is that this is not new. And I really want people to understand that. And I think if we get out of this conversation of it's something new and it's just because of this protest or it's because of this congressperson or it's this or this has been 50 plus years of our culture softening. It's been 50 years of the government beating it down beating men down, providing and providing and providing. This is literal socialism. Socialism doesn't just happen overnight. The movement to communism doesn't just happen overnight. It is a process where you just strip away energy, you strip away need, you strip away production, you strip away protection, and you provide all of these things for people, and then eventually you have a dumb, fat, lazy ass culture that then needs you.
Yep.
And that is literally the introduction of socialism. It's the introduction and the preamble to communism, the entire deal. Now, what does that mean? Like, how do we combat this? What do we do about this? You go through any culture in history. Any culture in history. I mean, name it. I mean, you go back to the Greeks, you go back to the Romans. At the end of the day, like, it won't stand. It can't stand, because there will be a large enough group of men that will turn the tables. There will be a war, a literal war. And at the end of the day, the people that have no guns, that have no protection, that can't provide, that don't know how to get food, that don't know how to protect themselves, will die. Straight up. They will die. They will be overrun, and the people who do protect, who do know how to provide, the men who have the capacity, who have the skill set, who have the tenacity, will thrive. They will thrive. And what's really interesting is, like, we could break this down into dating and the whole thing. I love the conversation. I love this reality, because as I step back and look at our entire culture, I'm the type of dude who gets on an airplane. I know who's sitting in the 3 rows in front of me, the 3 rows behind me. I know who's sitting on the entire plane. I know where my biggest threat is. I know who the biggest weakness is. I can energetically see this. I know this, right? And at the end of the day, I walk into rooms and I look at we talked about this when we were in Hawaii. Yeah. You look around at these men, dads, at the pool. They're fat as fuck. They're fat. Like, just straight up, they're fat. This motherfucker ain't running down the block. This motherfucker ain't picking up his family and carrying anybody. This motherfucker can't even run to his mailbox without having a goddamn heart attack. This is a vast majority of our culture and our country right now. This is a vast majority of people. However, there is also a very large, sizable congregation, if you will, of men who understand what masculinity is, who do know how to protect, who do know how to provide, who do know how to have this conversation. And I think right now we're seeing a tipping point. I think that there is so much conversation around this, and because there is so much access to technology, that there is literally a tipping point. Malcolm Gladwell talks about in The Tipping Point how the pendulum swings. And there has been such a radical feminization over the last 50, 60 years. The pendulum has been swinging so hard that eventually it's going to reach its climax, and it's going to go the other way. And this is why, if I go down this rabbit hole, don't let me go down this rabbit hole really far. But I want to make a point here with this. This is why, innately, like deep down, this is why Donald Trump is so popular. This is why the conversation in this country, why Donald Trump became so fucking popular so fast, but also became so fucking dangerous to this country. Fuck all of his morals. Forget the fact that he's been married 27 times and what. I'm talking about the fact that he's that crazy Uncle Larry who doesn't give a fuck. He's the dude who says, I love boobies. And he doesn't hide it. He's like, I love hot chicks. I love being a man. I love grabbing my wife's ass. Like, I'm into this. I'm the man. Now, a whole bunch of people are going to jump all over me for this. They're going to be like, oh, that's misogynistic, and that's this, and that's that. That's that. You ask 100 men if they like boobies, 100 of them will tell you, yeah. Now you ask 100 soy boys, and they'll say, no, I like Pornhub better. I like jerking off more than I like touching real boobs. But that guy, literally, in my personal opinion, became the tipping point for the conversation of masculinity. He showed up and started talking about things that were so foreign and so off base that made people uncomfortable, but it's true and it's real. We talked about this before we came down here, right? Mm-hmm. You poll, in fact, I did this a number of years ago. I had a conversation, this is before Facebook got really fucking ridiculous and I could legitimately say anything that I wanted to say. And I talked about how, the average dude will sit on his phone and be, doing his fantasy football and look across the room, be like, hey babe, wink, wink, nod, nod, you want to do it tonight? And the average woman's going to roll her eyes and be like, dude, get off your fucking phone, soy boy. You're more interested in your fantasy football team than you are my butt. Or you have a dude that walks into the kitchen, grabs his woman, throws her up on the counter, and fucks the shit out of her. And guess what happened? A whole bunch of people came out and said, that's rape, that's this, that's that. And the reality is, a vast majority of the women came on and were like, yo,
yes,
I'm in for that.
Yeah.
I'm in for that. And I think that, again, I don't want to make it political, but the reality is, I think right now, the reason that this is such a hot conversation, the reason that this is so big and prevalent right now is that we're seeing a tipping point. I think that the last 60 years have just been beating people down, beating men down, softening them up, just literally getting them to be nothing, to think nothing of themselves, to think that sex is bad, to think fucking their woman is wrong, to any of these things. It's gone so fucking far one way. Now you introduce a conversation, and whether it's Trump or whether it's just guys like me and Bryce and the homies that I roll with that like really talk about being men, we're going back the other way now, in my personal opinion. And it's starting to create a war. It's a cultural war of what is a man? Because for 50 years, we've had soy boys and soft people and no conversation around any of this shit. And women are like going, well, I really want a man, but I'm mad because there aren't any men.
I don't even think it's mad. It's there's a war on being feminine. Like I can't recall ever being told.
What do you mean there's a war on being feminine?
Listen to me.
I'm listening.
You'll hear it. I've never once in my life been told like, oh, it's such a powerful thing to stay at home and raise your children. It is such a powerful thing to be soft and to be graceful, to be nurturing. No, I've literally my life is like I've wanted to freaking hustle. I wanted to build, which is great. But the narrative was pushed. I was conditioned.
Right.
And most women I know, most successful, beautiful, strong, radiant women have been told they need to go outside and hustle their asses off and freaking take over corporations and, all this stuff, which is great. But it's pulled away from the family. It's literally, I feel like this is not just a war on feminine and masculine, this is a war on our family.
Oh, yeah.
Because now we're our children. If you've got women out there like providing and doing and leading and all this stuff, which is great. There's a lot of greatness in this. But who's raising our children? Mm-hmm. Somebody else is raising our children. And that always bothered me too, is I look at it like I spend a lot of my time like away from my kids. I didn't realize how powerful that was for me. And given you're right, I wasn't provided for me. I didn't have a choice, which a lot of women don't have a choice. Now I had a choice to have a baby. That was my choice. I stepped into that. That's all on me. But I didn't have a partner that was doing that with me. So I stepped into that power position for the majority of my life, raising these kids, going hard and big in the corporate world. But I never really was taught to appreciate just being a fucking mom, like just being a freaking wife. I'm barely at 39 figuring this out. I had a talk with Ann this morning about it. I was like, I have not even realized how much power and beauty is truly in this, in being feminine,
really feminine,
like real. And that's where I'm talking about the war on feminine is women are being told, you go do these things, men, you go do these things, and it's literally, I feel like it's ripping our families apart. Like the traditional family has been, I mean, look at it. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think that's what got us to this world now where everyone's upside down and confused. And yes, I believe in the tipping point. I believe we're going to swing back because the power of nature is too strong.
Well, and that was kind of the next aspect of this I want to talk about. You can't beat Mother Nature.
Right.
You can't. I've said this for years and years and years and years. Like, you can't beat Mother Nature. Like, my grandfather always told me when I was a little kid, like, to respect the ocean, respect the water. We grew up, like, going to the beach and going to the ocean and stuff. And I never really understood that. No matter how great of a swimmer you are, like, the water will beat you. It will beat you. Mother Nature will beat you. You can't beat the innate nature of mankind.
Yeah.
Not men and women, but just human beings in general. I am stronger than a vast majority of women on planet Earth. That's not racist. That's not misogynistic. That's not wrong. That's just fucking true. It's true.
Yeah.
What?
That's on a physiological level. That's just real.
That's just real. That's absolutely real. At the end of the day, like if we went out and shot a fucking elk, I could carry significantly more meat back than a woman could. Period. End of story. It's not wrong. It's not bad. It's not this. It's not that. Like men innately in their DNA, again, you go back to that book, Sex at Dawn, We are in this game to produce, to protect, to create our tribe, to literally like build our little world, our little family, to protect them, to provide for them, to do what's necessary to take care of them.
Yeah.
And we have gone so far in the opposite direction that men literally, and we say the word men and males, we should just call them males or soy boys or men or whatever, but like the average man is terrified to literally do what is inside of him. He is terrified to say the words that he wants to say. He's terrified to look at his woman and say, hey, I want to fuck. That's true. Men are terrified to say these things because of the labels, because of social media, because of how big the conversation has become that this is bad, this is wrong, this is ego, these are all of these other things. And again, I bring up Trump. I feel like I need to like talk about why I brought up Trump. It's not because of the morality of the guy. It's because that he has the ability and has the tenacity to say what's on his mind and to truly stand for what he believes in and say what he wants to say. And in my personal opinion, that is one of the most powerful things that a man will do, what he wants to fucking do. He will say what he wants to say. He will stand where he wants to stand. He won't follow the fucking masses. He won't follow the sheep. He won't fall in line and quiet his voice because it upsets somebody else. He'll say whatever the fuck he wants to say. He'll do whatever the fuck he wants to do. It's the premise of a lion. It's literally the premise. I talked about this with Dan on our podcast. Like a lion will literally do whatever the fuck it wants to do. If a lion gets hungry, it will go hunt, it will kill something, and it will eat. It doesn't ask the jungle for permission. It doesn't ask the elephant if it can kill it. It doesn't ask the gazelle if it can fucking rip its heart out and eat its liver. It doesn't ask. It just fucking kills it because it's hungry. When a lion wants to fuck, a lion goes and fucks. That's just what it is. It's the innate, that is Mother Nature. We are at war with Mother Nature. Society and culture and religion and schools and education are literally at war with something that you cannot war. You cannot go to war with Mother Nature. You will never win. You can't. It's impossible. And so literally we're going to be banging our heads against the wall. We are going to be having these conversations around talking about 3-year-olds changing their fucking gender, and because a kid wants to play dress up and put nail polish on that he's a girl now. And we have parents who are so fucking spineless. We have men who are not willing to stand and be a fucking man and be a patriarch and be a leader to say anything about it. We have men that are so cowardly in their own relationships to talk about their sexual desires and their needs that they're such a fucking pussy that they go find other pussy because they're too cowardly to fucking talk about shit with their own wife.
Very true.
And the reality is, again, I don't like the victim conversation. I don't like saying, well, poor men, poor men. There's no excuse for any of that. The truth of the matter is that we have had this beaten into our brains, into our hearts, into our churches, into our schools for years. As long as you and I have been alive, this is the normal. This is what's normal. This is what you do. And the fact of the matter is, it's fucking bullshit. It's absolute fucking bullshit. Period. End of story.
I agree with you.
What are you laughing at?
I know. Nothing. I just love how fired up and passionate you get.
We both are. We were really fired up last night. We were fired up this morning, and maybe we're talking about this the right way, maybe we're not. I don't really give a fuck. But the reality is, like, you know, you can read 100 books, you can talk to 100 experts, you can talk to 100 people, right? You go poll 100 women. How many women want a man to fucking be a man and to show up in the relationship and drop a fucking giant buffalo down on the dinner table every day?
All of them.
And to
Honestly,
have a full bank account?
Truly all
How
of
many
them.
women want their man to ask if they can have sex or grab her and own that fucking connection? Mm-hmm. You poll 100 fucking women, you'd be hard pressed to find any of them that would say, "No, I don't really want that. I don't really want that." Women want that. Men want that. Men want to go fucking hunt. Men want to provide. It's in our DNA. And what's crazy is this social pressure, these social conditions of if I say something. Like today, I said this on Instagram. I'm literally like, dude, don't get in my fucking way. If you get in my way, I will run you the fuck over. And I will. and that's considered hate speech. That's considered inciting violence. No, motherfucker, if you think that's violent, come try and take food out of my pantry. I'll show you fucking violence. Lay your hand on my family. Walk onto my fucking property in an inappropriate way, and I'll show you fucking violence. This is what's not happening in our culture right now, is kids aren't getting freaking punched in the face. Kids need to get punched in the face. Kids need to get into fights. They need to understand this tenacity. They need to get in touch with that fire. They have to, because that's truly what's in them. We're sedating. We're fucking jamming pills down kids' throats.
I keep thinking about the movie 300. This is like, that movie is synonymous with exactly what we're talking about. The power of the queen, the power of the children, those
little kids are raised to beat the fuck out of each other.
Literally,
they're raised to be warriors.
Yeah, to be strong.
They're raised to be warriors,
and to be they're also raised to be heartfelt. There's a community that, I mean, this, of course, we've only seen a movie. It's not like I've not actually met these characters in real life, but that story is really, really powerful. It's like they have a connection. They have a community that is so united.
Yep.
And they are so powerful, and they are so confident. Men, women, children, all of them. Mm-hmm. That's the beauty. That's really, I think, where this fire comes from, is that this softening, this weakening, it's like a collective depression. Mm-hmm. And it's wrong. It's literally a
collective
sickness.
Depression.
It's a sickness that has been slowly dripped into us, so where we didn't even know we were sick, and now we look around and we have a fucking plague.
We're literally
sick. We really have this. And to me, it's like, no, I've always expected a lot of my kids. I think people need to stop worrying that they need to not discipline their children or expect a lot of their children. I tell our kids all the time, I'm like, you want to know why I'm hard on you? You want to know why I give you a lot? Is because I fucking believe in you. Mm-hmm. I believe in you. I don't want you to need me. I don't want you to need anybody. I want you to know that you can go out there and you can take care of yourself. You know how to provide for yourself. My daughter, my boys, doesn't matter which. I want you to be freaking confident and powerful. This sickness, it's literally taking over, and it's a depression. And I don't think a lot of people know what to do with it right now.
Well, this is why we're having this conversation.
Exactly. And even there's a lot of men that probably think they're alpha. They think they're strong. But you had said it last night about it, it's like somebody pushes back on them, or one person talks shit on them, and they're like, oh. Yeah. It's like, no, stay in that power. Yeah. Stay there. Don't back down. That's what sucks, is most people, they're almost, a lot of these guys are they think they're manly, but they'll cower away so quickly. Look, and I encourage people to really look at that.
Well, and that's let's use 300 for an example. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you haven't watched that movie, you should watch that movie.
It's fantastic.
It's a great movie. There's this scene at the well. Lots happening there. Phenomenal scene. One of the greatest love stories ever told was told there at that well. But we're not talking about the love story. You watch what happens when Leonidas pulls out his sword on that Persian freaking messenger. He doesn't say, hey guys, let's go. Fucking every single dude standing around him didn't even ask a question. They didn't fucking blink. They pulled their swords out, found the closest fucking threat, put the sword right up to his throat. Didn't even ask. Didn't think. It was nature. It was in their DNA. Last year I had a really, really powerful experience with this with Will, wrestling.
Yep.
And you remember this. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of shit that came on that post, which was really beautiful, because there was a lot of people that were saying that I was literally abusing my son. And the story is this. I'll tell really quick, but you can find it on my Instagram. My son was not having the best time wrestling. He wasn't in it. He wasn't vibing on it and the whole thing. And the average parent would be like, that's fine. You can quit. Go do this. And no, fuck that shit. He committed to wrestle for the season. He's wrestling for the fucking season.
Yeah.
Okay? This is how I am as a dad. And anybody who's listening to this who disagrees with me, I don't give a fuck. At the end of the day, when you make a commitment, you make a commitment. You stick to it. If it gets hard, you fucking stay in the fight. And this is part of the problem. This is part of what's wrong with this masculine feminine, is you get a little tickle of being uncomfortable, or you start to go, oh, well, my wife kind of pushed back a little bit and whatever. I better just run for the hills, or I'll just go watch porn, or all whatever. Yeah. Fuck that shit. That is bullshit. That's just part of the problem. And so my son, he ends up going to this wrestling tournament, and the very first match that he has, he got his butt kicked. He just got his butt kicked. He got pinned in 60 seconds and was not happy, and he came off the mat, and he just had this look of anger and frustration and dejection, and he wanted to quit. In that moment, he wanted to quit. I saw it. Yep. I saw the quit in his eyes. I've had that. I saw it. I saw it in his eyes. And I pulled him to the side and we chatted and I let him freaking have his moment and he was pissed and, yeah, Dad, I'm not having fun, the whole thing. And I had a conversation with him. I had that 300 conversation. I wasn't sitting there punching him in the face like they did in the movie, you know, although sometimes they really want to do that. And we get down every now and again. But I grabbed my son, I'm like, I want you to close your eyes. And I said, I want you to vision like someone attacking your family. I want you to literally close your eyes and I want you to vision your sister, your brothers, your mom, someone literally trying to kill us all. I said, can you see that? Can you vision? He's like, yeah. That's dark. That's gruesome. That's whatever. It's also very real. It's very fucking real.
It is very real.
I said, I want you to vision that. And I like made him close his eyes and vision that. I said, I said, how does that make you feel? And he's like, oh, it makes me mad. It makes me frustrated. He's like, it like makes me really uncomfortable. I said, good. I said, what I want you to do is I want you to take that same feeling and in your next match, go out and wrestle with that same tenacity. Well, about an hour later, he had his next match. And I put my arm around him and we chatted and I was hyping him up and I'm bumping him up and I'm, you know, rubbing his back, getting his freaking knots out of his back and everything else and the whole thing. And I'll never forget as long as I live. I looked at him as he got on the mat and I grabbed his face. He had his little headgear on. I grabbed his face. I said, I love you. Now go be violent.
Yep.
I said, go be violent. And he got on that mat and he went 3 rounds. And you saw it.
So good.
He just went to fucking war with this kid. And this kid was bigger than him. He was better than him. Will did not quit. He would not fucking get pinned. He was literally going to die on that mat before he got pinned. He got busted in the mouth. He busted this kid in the mouth. There's blood everywhere. They stopped the match to wipe the blood off the mat and the whole thing. And I have a picture of it. It's on my Instagram. He comes walking off the mat, literally with blood pouring out of his mouth. I couldn't have been more proud. I couldn't have been more happy. He literally put every single thing on that fucking mat. And in that moment, I was like, that's the savage that will provide. See,
not even just hearing that. I was there.
You were there.
That gets me emotional.
It got me emotional.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, yes, I wanted my son to experience that.
Yeah.
I wanted him to feel like death. I wanted him to feel like I'm going to die. Like literally, if I don't go to war and bring that innate savage, which is in every fucking man out, I'm going to die. Like Dad's here. I have to fucking win. And he won.
Yeah.
And he had blood pouring out his mouth. He was spent. There's a picture where he just looks so fucking fatigued. He literally, like, if you had a gas tank, there was like 1 drop left in the fucking tank. Yep. And I sat there, I looked at him like, how do you feel? He's like, I feel good.
Yep.
And that was it. I didn't need to say anything to him. I didn't need to like pat him on the back and go, that a boy, everybody look at my kid. I wanted that kid to taste the blood. I wanted him to know what it was like to be a fucking savage. And I told him that. I said, dude, that's what has to show up in life. That's what's inside of every man. That savage beast, that fucking killer that goes in the mountains, murders an animal, brings it home and puts it on the table for his family to eat. That is inside of every fucking man. That is what God put in us. That is what Mother Nature put in man. If you got a dick in between your legs, you're a fucking man. That is your job. Your job is to go fucking kill shit, bring it home, put it on the table, and protect the fuck out of your family. Period. End of story. It ain't the cop's job. It ain't McDonald's job. It ain't Albertson's job. That's your fucking job. And in that moment, I was like, these are the moments that I want my kid to understand. I want him to feel that because I have felt that. I have had to go into those places. I have literally gone toe to toe, fist to fist with another man. I have had to protect my family. There have been those nights where I've gotten up and it's like somebody's in my fucking house and I'm like, I don't give a shit. This is my job, you know? This is that conversation that very few people are willing to have, that violence that we talk about. We made this shirt with Lions as Sheep because it's very real. Give violence a chance. Violence, let me say this and y'all can quote me on this. Violence solves problems. Violence solves problems. Sometimes when talking isn't helping, when it ain't getting it all done, violence is what it fucking takes. You come into my house, I'm not there to talk to you. I am there to fucking kill you. You touch my family, you fuck with my money, you fuck with my lifestyle, you fuck with my home, I will kill you. I'm not there to talk to you. I am there to bring out the savage, most violent fucking creature on planet fucking Earth. That's my job. That's what God intended me to be. Not to be some soy boy and sit on my couch and wait for the fucking cops to show up while my daughter gets raped, while my family gets killed. Fuck that shit. That is what man is. He is an innate fucking savage. But Sean, we've evolved. We've evolved. No, we haven't. No, we fucking haven't.
We're not doing
and just
that,
because you identify as an umbrella and think there's 97 genders and you cut your dick off, you're still a fucking man. You still have that innate DNA in you. You can relinquish it. That's fine. You can trust 911 with your life. That's fine. You can pretend that somehow there's always going to be a fast food joint on every fucking corner to serve your hunger. You can pretend that somebody's just going to show up when you push a button and drive your fucking fat, lazy ass around. That ain't how it's going to be. That ain't how it's going to be. And if we are swinging back the other way, if we are going back the other way, if we are, there will be a war. There will be a war, and it will be fucking nasty, and it will be violent. It will be radically fucking violent. And unless you're comfortable in violence, unless you have trained in violence, if you have soy boyed your kids and bubble wrapped them, and every time they get into some little fucking scuffle, you get in the middle of it, mommy and daddy, you are weakening your children. You are doing a disservice to your fucking children. Let your children duke it out. Let your children fight. Let them solve. What do I say to the kids more than anything else? I say to my children more than, I tell them I love them probably more than anything else. My kids come in, Relic, Pierce, any of them. They're crying, they're bitching, moaning. I say, get the fuck out and solve the problem. It's not my job to get in the middle of it.
It's empowering. I think that's so cool that you said all of that, because all of this is empowering. This is not violent, or not just negative, excuse me, it is violent. It's not negative. This is empowering. Like, Will was so empowered.
Oh, totally.
The kids are empowered when they're told to solve the problem, because then they realize that they have power in them to solve problems, to win on the battlefield. Like, we need to feel that. Women need to feel that. But with all that masculine, like, when men show up that way, that invites the feminine, like me, for instance, to completely dissolve into this really beautiful, juicy, loving, flowing. Yeah, really. I use that word on purpose.
These are descriptive words. These are verbs, right? Isn't verbs
adjectives, dear.
All the adjectives today. I don't fucking know. Nouns, verbs, whatever.
Women are then allowed, they are capable of becoming the most delicious version of themselves, because they feel safe. They know they're safe.
Right.
If I don't have my guard up, do you know what I become?
Hard.
No, I said if I don't have my guard up.
Oh.
If I have my guard up, I'm hard, I'm walled off, I'm not connected, I'm not open, I'm not juicy. Like, there is such a beautiful positive side to men being really, 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 really powerful. But I also want to add that, like, women also need to have that. It's part of getting your house in order. Women need to be strong.
Right.
We need to have that. However, the balance when it comes to a family is men need to lead.
Yeah.
Men need to lead.
I bring up that word because the flip side to this conversation is you've got the masculine, you got the feminine, right? And I could talk about war and violence and the whole thing. Call me old school, call me whatever. Like, when I was a kid, I'll never forget as long as I live, I got into a fight with a neighbor kid. This kid, his name was Lorenzo. I'll never forget it. As long as I'll be 100 years old, I'll still remember it. Me and this kid, we got into a fucking fight. We were literally neighbors. Our lawns connected. And we're in this fight and we're yelling and all these kids start coming over and the whole thing. And I'll never forget, as long as I live, looking over and seeing my dad standing on the stoop of our house, and looking over and seeing his dad standing on the stoop of the house. And they were both standing there watching. And we were literally fucking throwing down. We were like punching each other. Kids were like coming in, kids were like cheering them on back in the day. Kicks that order. Because some kids were trying to get in and break it up. And I'll never forget, as long as I fucking live, my dad standing there watching me fight this kid. And his dad standing there watching him fight me. And they didn't break it up. They weren't like, hey, kids, They just fucking stood there. They stood there. And eventually we ended up doing what we did, and I don't remember who won or lost. I'm sure I won. and I ended up saying, fuck you, whatever. He goes his way, I go my way. I go to my house. I walked inside the door, and my dad grabbed me, and, my shirt's like all, we got into this little fight, right? And this is a little kid, a little scrappy thing, whatever. And he's like, I want you to go over and I want you to shake his hand. And I was like, okay. And went out in the front porch, and his dad literally is like weird. His dad did this exact same thing. And we duked it out, and we end up going, literally meeting in the middle of the lawn. Hey man, cool. And it's what it is. Like, violence solves problems. Yep. It really does. And I think that the definition of man is not violence. You know, a lot of people have this misconception of what alpha is. This alpha conversation. Everybody's alpha. Alpha, alpha, alpha. There's all these fucking gurus and guys who are alpha this, and I'm alpha that, and I'm alpha this, and I'm alpha that. Yeah. I'm not even going to talk about the dudes. Let's just talk about the word for a second, because some of the biggest soy boys are the biggest quote-unquote alphas. The reality is the alpha has the innate ability to have the balance between the two. Because when you talk about safety, when I'm providing,
yes.
right? When you know that the freezers are full, when you know that there's money in the bank, when you know that we have a copious amount of firearms to protect our freaking little village and our little tribe and our little home, when you know that I'm safe with you, that I'm honest with you, that I'm transparent with you, that we're playing the same game together. One of the most, quote, alpha things that you will do, men, is to surrender to the feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that mean that I'm lesser or I'm this? And this is part of the war right here, is which is more powerful? The woman has to be more powerful. The man has to be more powerful. No. When I walk in our home, like, that's your domain. Mm-hmm. Like, that's your space. That's your kingdom. That's like what I envision just from this word game that we're playing. Like, that is what you rule and reign over, right? Mm-hmm. And when I walk in there, it's like me being able to provide the safety, the sanctity, the security is what allows me to then soften. Because we have this idea as men that we just beat our chest all day long, and that alpha is this dude that just runs around and fucks and makes money and cuts everybody's throat and all this other shit. And the truth of the matter is, most of these quote-unquote alpha boys are literally little boys that just bang on their chest all day long, and they're the biggest fucking pussies on the block. The truth of the matter is, like, one of the most powerful things that a man will do is go out and fucking kill, bring home the buffalo, and then dance with his woman in the kitchen. And if I need to explain that to you, then you probably should re-listen to this podcast, or maybe study how Saxony and I operate our lives together a little bit more. But that is one of the most, quote, alpha, masculine, powerful things that you will do, is find extreme connection to both the masculine and the feminine as a man. As a man.
Women as well.
Same thing with women, because when I come home, or I'm in a space, or I'm whatever, and I'm able to surrender, and you're able to step into that space. Case in point, I'm having an experience, I'm here, I'm being radically honest with you, problem that men have, and you know exactly where I am, and you'll walk over, you'll tickle my head, you'll rub my shoulders, you'll you'll just provide that space for me to be that guy, for me to have that moment, and then you step into that like, hey, I'm going to control this situation. I'm going to lead this conversation.
Without judgment.
No
without
judgment.
Fear.
Right.
And there's my
there.
My honor to do that.
Right. And I think that there's a really, really, really there's a terrible misconception around what alpha really is. And I think you hear that word, and a lot of people think that I get called that all the time, this alpha bro and all this other bullshit. The reality is, like, I'm able to dance in the kitchen with you. I'm able to dance in a restaurant with you. I don't have the fear of standing. We were Sundance not too long ago, and a song comes on, and it's now like one of our songs, and we're in a restaurant in front of people and the whole thing, and I just get up and I dance with you. And the truth of the matter is, like, when I was not in connection with that, when I truly was in this not healthy masculine state where I didn't understand what it really meant, and I was trying to be that alpha, that would have, like, that's no, I wouldn't do that. Like, that's like weird. That makes me feel weird and whatever. That's one of the most powerful things that a man will do. Is show the feminine, show the woman that we can be in the space together, that we can be safe together. That I can, like, let my guard down, and I use the example all the time. Coming home and taking off the armor, right? And you taking the armor off. You having the ability and the power, the masculine nature, if you will, the powerful nature to help me take the armor off. And I allow that to happen. I have the power, if you will. It's not ego. It's not pride. It's not this ferocity. It's not like, no, I got to be the fuck man, the alpha 24/7. No, I need to do this.
Because we have such trust in the connection of both of our energies. You trust my masculine and my feminine. And I trust yours.
I feel like we could go in 1,000 different directions with this, like really diving into masculine, diving into feminine, diving into what they really mean and what they really are. And maybe we will. Maybe we do, like, and we talk more about this with other people and the whole thing, but like the conversation that I'm really, really, really passionate around right now is understanding what it really means to be in your masculine, to be a fucking man. You can worry about the woman part and the whole thing. I'm not a chick. I don't have to worry about that. But like, there's a true war on masculinity right now. There is a true war happening, and this was very spiritual, I guess you could say, last night. We were very, very, very real conversation around the darkness and around the devil and around the adversary and around darkness and around weakness, because those people who want you to be weak, if you are weak, they will win.
Correct.
Who is they? Whatever. I don't give a shit. You can put whoever you want into that conversation. You can put a church, you can put a religion, you can put a government, you can put whatever you want in there. But the truth of the matter is, a weak man is a danger to society. It is a danger to a family. A weak man is not a patriarch. A weak man is not a leader. A man who will succumb to the pressures, a man who will walk away from conversations like what we're having, a man who will downplay his role as a father, a man who will walk away from his woman because he's too afraid to talk to her, he's too afraid to plant his fucking flag. He is a danger to society. He is a danger, and he's leaving his family radically vulnerable, and it's a dangerous place for him to be. Like we culture, society need right now more than anything men to plant their fucking flag and to stand by that flag and to hoist it as high as they fucking can, and to provide for their families and to stand with pride in being able to provide for their families, to be able to make copious amounts of money and to honor that shit because it allows them to give, it allows them to provide, it allows them to help, it allows them to expand, right? To be able to literally produce and protect. Like, men should literally be comfortable getting their knuckles bloody. Men, if you're not capable of getting your knuckles bloody, fucking turn this goddamn this podcast off and go find a place to get your knuckles bloody. There will be a time where you need to physically protect your family. And if you can't do it, you're dead. Your family's dead. Period. End of story. Men, you absolutely have to train and allow and provide for your children to experience this. Hey, what was this? Was it 2 years ago, Will, with the Fight Club?
No, it was
another little funny story.
Like 4.
My son is definitely a chip off the old block. Will is definitely a chip off the old block. He's got a smart ass thing. This was a couple years ago. I think it was before you and I were even dating.
It was.
Well, long story short, I get a call from the principal, and Will's in trouble because they were. Apparently they were like emptying out other football players' lockers. They were like hazing them or doing whatever they were doing. And a couple of the players were like running around taking things out of other players' lockers. They did it to Will and the whole thing. Anyways, I get called in the principal's office, and it's the principal and the vice principal, and they're telling me all this stuff. And they're like, well, we're not, he's not in trouble or anything. We just want to make you aware of this. And they're kind of hazing each other, and we don't think it's appropriate. And I'm sitting there like, really, bro, like, this is the worst they're fucking doing. I'm like, when I was a kid, like, shit got way spicier than that. So whatever, right? Anyways, we're wrapping up the meeting. They're like, oh, wait, Mr. Whalen, well, there's one more thing. And this principal, like, gets up on the edge of his chair, and he's trying to be more serious. He's like, we also want to let you know that Will and some of his friends have been running a fight club. And I'm like, a fight club? And I'm like, do tell. Like, I get up on the edge of my chair. I'm like, tell me more about this.
These are junior high kids.
Yeah,
These are junior high kids.
Oh yeah, he's in junior high, and they're like, he's running a fight club, and I, you could see Will. He just like he got super like embarrassed. He kind of like shrunk down a little bit, like shit. And I'm looking at this principal. He's wearing the white socks and the braided belt, and I guarantee you, he has never thrown a punch nor received a punch in his entire fucking life. He's like, well, him and some of the football players after school, they go over to this kid CJ's house, and apparently they've been fighting. I'm like, well, what do you mean fighting? He's like, well, Will has some pictures and some videos that I'm sure he's willing to show you, but they've been spreading around the school, and some of the people are talking about it, and the kids are talking about the whole thing. And I was like, okay, cool. I look at Will and I look at the principal. I was like, so is he in trouble for this or what? And they're like, no, it's not on school property. It's totally fine. We just wanted to make you aware of it. I'm like, all right, cool, thanks. And I knew what Will was upset about. He wasn't worried about the fight club. He knew that once I found out, I'd be pissed that he didn't tell me. And this is how much I love like my children and how much I'm open with my children about violence, about connection, about being a man, about the masculinity, about all this shit. And we're walking out and put my arm around him. I'm like, what the fuck, man? I'm like, why didn't you tell me about this? He's like, well, it's kind of new and whatever. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Yeah, rule number 1, don't ever talk about Fight Club. I was like, touche. Mad props for you for not telling me. I said, but now I know, so what's up? And he shows me this video on his phone. And him and these kids, they went over to this kid CJ's house, and he's got this big skateboard bowl, and they put on headgear and mouth guards and gloves, and they had a little ref down there. One of the little kids was a ref, and the two of them would get down there, and they just say, okay, go. And these kids would just start whooping the shit out of each other, like throwing bombs, like full-on bombs. And I almost got emotional. I'm walking out to the truck, picking this kid up from the principal's office, and he shows me a video of him, of course, and he's tuning this kid up. This kid throws a total cheap shot on him, and Will just proceeds to beat the tar out of this kid, right? And I'm like, I'm emotional and I'm proud as hell. Mm-hmm. But I looked at him, I'm like, okay, here's the rules. Like, you're not in trouble at all. If anything, tell me when the next one is so I can come and I can teach you guys how to throw better punches, how to throw effective jabs and counters and crosses and hooks and the whole thing. He's like, okay, Dad, we totally will. But when I was a kid, we didn't have headgear. We had ratted ass, like busted up Everlast gloves that probably were mismatching and that literally had no padding, and we would just beat the shit out of each other, right? But I was proud as hell of that because that's something that he was comfortable in doing. Right? Yeah, I wanted to know about it and whatever, and they still do their thing and it's cool and shit. We do that at the house, right? Mm-hmm. But this is something that is very, very, very real in the heart of man. In not just the heart of man, not the DNA. And there will never be a time you can't protest it out of us. You can't like legislate it out of us. You can't regulate it out of us. You can't demonize it out of us. You can't villainize violence and this innate thing that's in the heart of man. You can't. It always has been there, and it will always be there. Mm-hmm. Mother Nature, God put it in the heart of man and said, this is your job, this is your role, this is what you're going to do. You can be mad about it all you fucking want. But fellas, be comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. Get comfortable with it. There's a high probability that your wife is not looking for you to come home and ask her from across the room while you're on your phone dicking around on Instagram if she wants to do it tonight. There's a high probability that you go over there and you grab her and you kiss her neck and you tell her how beautiful she is and you throw her down on the freaking counter, that she's going to be game. She's going to be game. Yes, baby? Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Amen. Okay. Again, everybody's just going to be like, Sean just thinks this whole thing's about sex and whatever. And maybe I worried it right, maybe I don't. I don't really give a shit. But the fact of the matter is, like, this is very real, and it's something that maybe we're talking about it the right way, maybe we're not. I don't really know. But I know that we know what it is. Mm-hmm. We honor it. We respect it. And I'm very much a believer with Lions Not Sheep, with our movement, with what we're doing, with what we talk about, that this is something that must be talked about. This is something that must become a conversation with men, a conversation with women, a conversation with couples, a conversation with children. Like, this is something that we need to become accustomed with. We need to have the conversations. The school's not going to do it. The government's not going to do it. The churches aren't going to do it. The friends aren't going to do it. You're sure as shit not going to get your soy boy neighbor friends to teach your kids how to be violent or whatever. If anything, they're teaching them not to.
Your kids in
hockey.
Hell
yeah. Hockey's badass.
I put both my boys in, and now we've got 3 boys playing hockey.
I love it. They fall down, they freaking hit. Dude, watching little Relic. Relic plays
he's
goalie,
a fighter.
But when he's not playing goalie and he's out there skating, these little kids, they try and throw their little cheap shots and their freaking checks and shit like that, and I love it. I love it. You know what I mean? Like, watching my son play football, mm-hmm. and watching when he sticks somebody. He gets a sack on a quarterback or whatever, and you just see that fire come out of his freaking soul. It radiates out of him. Mm-hmm. You see it in his freaking eyes. To me, there's nothing cooler than that. Mm-hmm. There's nothing cooler than that, because that's that savage that's inside. That when and one of the things I think this is one of the many reasons I think this is important is because when you become accustomed with it, you know how to tame it. When you can become accustomed with violence, you're not scared of it. You know, you get a lot of these kids where you teach them it's bad, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. And then all of a sudden somebody fucking explodes and shoots up a school or goes absolutely fucking postal or has all of these problems
or
as
kills
an adult.
Himself.
Or kills himself because he feels like such a freak or whatever. You know, the reality is like this is truly like how men and women were programmed. And we can try, we, the people, the courts, the people, the government, you can try and change the innate nature. You can try and change what a man is or change what a woman is. You can try and verbally put different names and different pronouns and different he, it, but it. You can identify as a fucking umbrella or a goddamn stoplight if you want to. But the truth of the matter is you're never going to beat Mother Nature. And I feel like right now, if you're vibing with what we're talking about, not only is it like an amen, cool, you get it, but you got to start fucking standing. The conversation has to be had. You have to be able to have this conversation openly and publicly so that other people, like one of the things that I always tell people is I'm not here to convince you one way or the other. Like I'm not here to tell you my way's right, your way's wrong, this, that, with anything. With my coaching, with anything. I'm just here to shine my light so that the other people that vibe with this light can see it. I'm not here to tell you my way is the only way, that this is the only way to make money, this is the only way to have a happy marriage, this is the only way to raise your kids. I'm not telling you that at all. What I'm saying is this is my truth and this is my reality. And I want to shine my light as bright as possible so that other people that understand it, that other people that vibe with me, that other people are living in that same light, know that they're not alone. Know that they're okay. Know that they're not a fucking weirdo and a freak. And I feel like the more couples that connect in this conversation, the more couples that can have these conversations, the more fathers that can have these conversations, mothers, women, men that can have these conversations publicly, the brighter that light's going to shine. And that's really the only way that tip, that the pendulum swings the other way, is when we the people that understand this, normalize this conversation, normalize what masculine and feminine is. Because right now the loudest voice is the freakiest fucking voice, which doesn't make any fucking sense, which truly believes that, you know, just because you say, I'm a woman today, now you're a fucking woman. No, dude, you have dick and balls, like you're a fucking man, and you can scream it all day long, but it doesn't make you a woman. And I hate to break it to you, but that's just what it is, you know? I don't want to go down that rabbit hole either, but... all the rabbit holes, man. How many people do you think are going to be pissed off with this show?
Maybe a couple. We love people.
What?
We love people. This comes from the heart, truly. Like, we want people to win. We just say it the way we
feel it, man.
Yeah.
We don't script this. I don't have notes. I don't have an agenda of how to say it and what to say. And yeah, I say a lot of things maybe that are right, and a lot of things that are probably soft and nice and fluffy, and some things are just, whoa, kick you right in the fucking face with that one. But it's the only way I know how to do it. It's the only way I know how to be. I think truly the way that we're living our life is probably the best example. We can talk about it all day long, but the way we live our lives, the way we truly operate with our children. And I brought up that post about Will because there was a lot of people that were like, well, if your son doesn't want to wrestle, why are you making him wrestle? There were a ton of people that were like, that's literally, people were saying it's child abuse.
We just quit when things get hard.
People were like, why would you want your son to visualize like something terrible happened in your family? Why would you do that? People were saying I was literally abusing my child.
I had a trainer that did the same thing with me when I PR'd on my deadlift. He said the same thing. He said, walk over there, and he's a Marine, pick up that barbell like it's laying on your child. He's like, visualize that, obsess over that, cry over that. That's what you have to have in your head. And guess what? Barbell popped up, ended up winning that fucking competition. It was like, I had to get to that savage mindset to fucking really win. If not, you're right, I would have tapped out. My mind would have quit long before my body would have.
Body's hot, baby.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Did we cover everything? Did we talk? I feel like there's so many other things. Yeah, there's so many other things that like we should talk about with this. I'm sure we'll just look at the comments on YouTube and we'll have a whole nother fucking show to talk about after we read the comments. But yeah, I pray that people understand that the nature of this conversation is one that our way is our way, your way is your way. It's totally fine. More than anything, though, right now, men and women, families, husbands and wives need to stand and not back away from this conversation, not back away from disciplining their children, not back away from letting their kids beat the shit out of each other and normalizing violence and understanding that a healthy connection with violence is very, very, very normal and it's very healthy. Understanding that when you can and you can train kids and teach kids about these emotions, that they become good citizens and and good people in society, and they can then help other contributors normalize these things, because it's real. And I think the more we walk away and the more we back away, the harder this conversation is going to be, because truthfully, social media is continuing to grow. It's going to continue to freaking propagate messages. It's going to continue to get faster and quicker, and we're not going away from that. It's going to continue to be there. And if there's one conversation that's really, really, really loud, then we need to have the other side of the conversation as equal and as loud as that. And so I encourage those of you that vibe with this to not back away from this, to not back away from, standing your ground, planting your flag, hoisting it up, showing who you are and what you are as a husband, as a wife.
Don't be ashamed to speak your truth.
No.
To speak, to truly speak it. Because right now it's like we get shut down. Yeah. We get, things removed and shadow banned. But speak anyways.
Yeah.
Say it anyways.
Yep. And then you'll just get banned on Facebook and Instagram. Fuck it. I'll just set up I thought about that today. I'm like, if I just get banned, I'm just going to set up another profile. I'll just keep doing it. That's what all the trolls do. They have 87 fucking profiles. I'll just set up 87 profiles and like, which one's real big? I don't know all of them. You know what I mean? If it's got my face on it and I'm not selling you freaking crypto or porn, then that's me.
Sugar Daddy one isn't one of your backups?
That's not one of mine. That was a great name, though.
I know.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I don't know what else to say on this. There's so much more to say, but
there is.
I think we're good for today.
Gunnar, what do you think?
Anything else you want to say, babe, on this?
No, I think it's great.
Okay.
Sure, we'll get a lot of activity.
Guys, let us know your thoughts. Pop,
yeah, please.
Jump up in them comments. Slide up in the DMs. Let us know what you think, and maybe we'll read them. Maybe we won't. We'll probably read them and probably laugh at a lot of them. Probably say amen to a lot of them.
For sure.
I think there's a lot more people. We have
a solid tribe.
I think there's a lot more people that vibe with our conversation that are saying amen right now than you're fucking nutty, or they're saying you're nutty but amen. You know what I'm saying? Because if the pendulum's swinging really hard one way, it's hard to go the other way.
Yeah.
It's hard to get it to go the other way.
Everybody matters. For the record.
Not everybody.
How do you get a flag that's just it's cool?
Where did that come from?
So I was thinking of the beginning.
What the fuck are we... Dude, I go down the Trump rabbit hole, you go down the all lives matter. Jesus Christ. Well, that was great, babe. I have to go to my son's football game. If you'd like to carry on this conversation by yourself.
It's really awesome to be a heterosexual white mom. Flag. Is there? Oh, okay, we'll just stop.
No.
Okay, bye.
All right, babe. That was great. That was great. We were on a roll for a minute there. You just fucking... All right, guys, we love you. Thanks so much. Cheers. Bye.
Okay, love you. Bye.